Welcome to Your Healing Era, a podcast for artists, creatives, healers, anyone living outside the traditional mold who's searching beyond the conventional forms of healing. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and rate the podcast. Thanks for being here, and let's dive into today's episode. Okay, welcome everyone. Today we have the London-based artist, choreographer, poet, healer, and a beautiful soul, Mina Aidoo. Thank you for being here, Mina.
Thank you for having me, Noga. I love when people ask me to be on their podcast, so thanks for asking me.
Yeah, I thought you would be such a good fit to be on here because, well, we shared a space at Alchemical Alignment together that we studied those courses together. And then I kind of listened to some other stuff that you were on, and I saw the type of work that you put out with nonlinear movement and stuff. And I realized we have a lot of stuff in common because we both were kind of on this path of being in some kind of art industry. And we'll get to the word art also.
And some kind of art industry.
Some kind of art industry, as a career path, while also being on a healing path, and then seeing how the worlds of dance and healing or music and healing combine and kind of take us on our own journey that's maybe different than the traditional career arts, so-called. So
Yeah.
do you mind telling us a little bit about how things unfolded for you?
Oh my God. Yeah, just diving in there with like question five. Yeah, how things unfolded. So I was on a path of like dance and choreography. I trained as a professional dancer and I became a choreographer. So I was in those worlds and I was doing like music videos and some theatre and things like that. And I also got a big like West End touring job that I kind of had a bit of a breakdown in the middle of rehearsals. And I was like, no, can't do this. I'm out. Which kind of took me on a very abrupt way of taking me on a different path, where I was sort of pursuing more my own self-healing and like finding out, like I was craving more depth in what I was doing, and kind of like the dance industry was not meeting that for me, and so it kind of took me on a different path. And alongside that, I'd always been interested in healing, in somatics, embodiment, and sexual healing as well. So it kind of like took me on a detour of like going on my own healing journey, and now kind of offering somatic work to others.
Beautiful. I loved participating in your workshop a few weeks back. Yeah, it's amazing what happens. We give ourselves enough time and space to let our body really move how it wants to move, as opposed to, oh, now we need to do this movement, or we have an hour to dance or shake or whatever. But like this was long, this was what, like a couple of hours?
It was like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How did you develop that sort of workshop?
Wow. So I have a dance background, so I've always danced, like choreography, formal choreography. But I've also always had my own kind of movement that I did. And it's just been a personal practice of mine. And then I trained with Michaela in her nonlinear movement method. And I kind of combined my own personal practice with what she taught me, and also some of the alchemical alignment principles to kind of create this space of like massive permission, enough guidance and support, but also lots of permission, as I've said. So the thing about we don't often, as you say, allow our bodies to move how they want to move. We're constantly telling our bodies what they need to do. I need to go here, I need to get there. I'm doing this choreographed movement now. I'm doing this practice now. But when do we ever have that kind of bottom up, like listening for? And that's what this practice does. It helps us to refine and listen for what our bodies want to do and allow that kind of expression. And then over time, it kind of makes for a really kind of positive feedback loop where you're just much more in touch with what your body's sharing with you, with what your body might need, getting your basic needs met. Like it helps with boundaries. It just helps with knowing and being sort of centered in yourself and being able to sort of express outwards from your own sort of center.
Yeah. Even
Mm.
yoga, that is such a healing practice, is also super linear and like put your leg here, put your body in this form. Yeah, during the pandemic is the first time that I started more deeply experimenting with movement. Do you know Kate Sheila, by the way?
No, no,
Ooh,
I've not.
because I think she's also originally London based. She's a fabulous dance shaman lady. Because I've gone to multiple dance, like ecstatic dive rhythm type things,
Mm-hmm.
but never have I ever had a guide like her. And during the pandemic, she did her movement practice thing online. So every Saturday, there will be hundreds of people on the Zoom call dancing
Wow.
at home. And I think because I could be off camera and I could be in my own space, it really gave me freedom as opposed to like going to a space and being around people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Her music choices are incredible. Her guidance was incredible. And I did that I don't know if every Saturday, whenever she offered it. And that was incredible. That's when I really started to just really start to get it because I've never really been a dancer and I've never really been comfortable dancing. Also, afterwards, when I was back in New York City and things after the pandemic started to open up, I started taking salsa dancing classes, which was like kind of a thing I wanted to do for so many years. And that really opened up things for me. It was like the perfect post-pandemic cure. It was like, what? Holding hands and like sweating together and getting spun around. And it was just like, yeah. So all of both the salsa and those dance sessions with Kate have been so healing for me.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I love that you say that. I think like dance and music, they're like two of the things I love the most and that help me live. That like, yeah, I'm gonna say help me live. They're that important. And so everyone, yeah, just finding your own way with movement and dance and like, what do you need? Like, what music do you need? Do you need a big group? Do you need your eyes closed? Do you need like, there's some movement that helps someone. Do you know what I mean? All different forms. The five rhythms are kind of, there's so many versions of this. I think it's because it's a thing we've always done. We've always been in touch with movement and our bodies in some way. And like, so we're just going through versions, finding our own version of continuing this practice for now. But I just love that it's so open and anyone can find themselves kind of in a movement practice or a dance practice. There's something for everyone. Yeah.
Something that both of us had a deep dive into through alchemical alignment and probably through other modalities is really getting in close, intimate touch with our trauma responses,
Mm-hmm.
including freeze response, which when you and I emailed, we were talking a lot about creativity and we were talking about the things that can hinder us, our creativity. And you were
Mm-hmm.
mentioning the freeze response, and I was thinking about actually being in survival mode and how that makes it difficult to really create. A lot of times we do the things like I play bass for a living, so I it's like it's easy for me to do, but it doesn't mean that I'm always doing the most creative thing that I want to be doing, you know. There's there's different things. Um, Maybe we can talk a little bit about just creative process and
Yeah. I mean, so this is we spoke about like I feel like I have a lot to say on this topic. But maybe it's a good thing. We'll see. Because the people that I work with in my practice, I tend to work with people who maybe have some kind of freeze response, like the sort of people who are kind of slower or more kind of um, internal, inwards, sort of maybe sensitive, like they're very sort of, I don't know, they've got more of a maybe like a melancholic nature, that they're more sort of towards that way. Um, and so when it comes to trees and making art, what I see now, there's a whole industry in urging people to make their art, quote unquote art. I'm doing my fingers. There's like so many coaches and so many people who are like, you got to make your thing, get out of bed, do your thing, blah, 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 blah. um, which is a whole other like trauma response in itself. That pace and that urgency, like a whole thing. So just going to name that. But when you're working with people who maybe find it harder to make, that kind of urgency doesn't help. It just adds more, another layer on top, which kind of like pushes people down rather than helping them rise up into their creativity. And I don't know, I think the culture rewards this kind of urgency, gotta do this now, blah, blah, hustle, hustle, gotta do this. And I think it just puts so much pressure on people to be artists, quote unquote, to make stuff. And that what you're doing is so important. I'm not saying art isn't important, but I'm like, it's the way it's framed in the culture, it's so disconnected from everything else that we do. It's like we're not just one thing. We're not just making art and that's all we do. Like what we make is a culmination of who we are and how we live and how connected we are in the world. You know, it's like it's a culmination of everything. And I think being creative is one thing that we do, which is a beautiful thing. But there's so many other things that we also do, but there's so much emphasis and urgency put on this thing that we have to do, and you know, and everyone's an artist and everyone has to do this thing. And I'm just like, I just don't think it's very helpful. I think for me, as someone who has struggled to make stuff, it's like if I kind of remove the layers and take it back to myself, is there something that I want to express today, and who is it for as well? Because it could just be for me, like, and could that be okay? You know, in this the layers of like who it's for. There's me. There's maybe like my boyfriend or partner, my kids or my pets, and then you know there's layers of people that I may or may not want to see this. And it's like we can just take small steps, but it feels like we have to make this thing, and then everyone in the world has to see it. And it's not a useful, you know, we're just skipping those sorts, that sort of like, oh, I've got to be big, really pushes people back down and stops them from actually just taking a small step, because it has to be
Yeah.
this massive thing or I don't do it at all. And I think so many people are stuck in that. I have to do this thing, I can't do this thing, the double bind type area.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm gonna pause for just a minute because I really gotta tell you about this. If you're feeling called to go deeper on this work, and if you're a woman who loves making music or exploring sound, writing songs, and expressing yourself creatively, I'm leading a retreat in Mexico this summer. It's an intimate, immersive week of embodied healing and creative expansion. We'll have a professional recording studio on site. We'll be writing, producing, dancing, practicing yoga, meditating, swimming in the ocean, all the things. So really living inside our bodies and inside our art. If this is calling you, all the details are below. We have limited spots and we have early bird pricing, so go check it out. And if Mexico isn't happening for you right now, I also have a free nervous system regulation tool that you can explore at home in your own time. And if you're ready for something more structured, my full nervous system sorcery course is also available. Everything is linked below. All right, let's get back to the episode.
So yeah, that's just one thing I could say. There's many, but that's one thing. If I can summarize it, the urgency and the kind of you must do this thing now is not helpful for people in a freeze response around creativity, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I just feel like creativity is something I just put on the back burner for most of my life because there were more urgent things to take, like making sure I can pay rent and eat. I wish I could be free like that and just make music all day. I still wish that I could be free like that and make music all day. So what do you think is helpful?
If people are in a freed response and they're wanting to be more creative, I think what's helpful is taking all the layers away and just reducing it to you and a thought that you might have or a feeling that you might have, and then seeing where that takes you. Like take everyone else out of it. It's not about anyone else. It's about you, and it's like going from here to here. That's what, yeah, that's the only part you need to do. This other part comes later if you want, but it doesn't have to. You know, you could just
Right.
be intimate with yourself and express yourself. And no one has to see it. It could just be on a bit of paper. It doesn't have to be, it's like a practice. It doesn't have to be this big structured thing. It could just be whatever. Like, could it be smaller? I think making it smaller and doable helps. Taking the pressure and urgency off of it helps. And like that voice that tells you, you know, I see so many academic type posts on Instagram talking about the role of the artist and it's your duty. And I'm just like, no, like, what are you talking about? Like, humans have this thing that we've always done. Like, that's it. Like, you don't have to do anything for anyone, you know?
Or you don't have to make things and monetize them.
You don't have to monetize it either. This is the thing. You don't have to monetize it.
And yeah, and
Um,
what sorry.
Now, I was going to say one thing was, I know what you mean about the people who didn't have to pay, who didn't have to make money to pay rent or work a job or whatever. Because I also kind of have what's the word?
Beef.
Come to some realizations about who was it, because you know people don't talk about money transparently, and so you don't know. So you're there, I'm there working three jobs, whereas them over there, they're not doing that. You know, people are not speak, are not. It might take a while to. It took me a while to understand that. Shall we just put it like that? And also the pressure I was putting on myself to like compete with this person, but while I had three jobs, it's like we're not all playing the same game here. You know what I mean? And it's like, can we be compassionate? And maybe it's important to find some stability, you know, in your own life and put creativity. Like, how big does creativity need to be? There might be a voice that says it needs to be everything, it needs to be my whole life. And then I had that voice. And when I was doing that, I couldn't sustain it as my whole life. Do you know what I mean? It's like the voice that told me I should only be doing that was not sustainable for me on an everyday living level. And so it's like, could we just, you know, play with the size? And for me, the size of creativity is here and it fits in with the rest of my life pieces that I do. And that feels much more reciprocal in the fact that I'm not like, what's the word? I'm not mining it constantly. You know what I mean? It's like I can feel replenished, I can give, it can replenish me, I can give. It feels much more reciprocal when it's right size rather than the voice in the culture, which tells you you should be this artist and only this artist and the rest of your life
And
doesn't.
if you're not, and if it's not your whole life, then maybe you're not even a real artist.
Exactly. It's not true. It's just not true. It's just not true.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Um,
it's yeah, discerning the voices.
Discerning the voices and understanding the privileges. Do you know what I mean? Where does that voice come from? Who has the privileges of that kind of life?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to something you were talking about earlier, would just like express something intimately with yourself, you know, as a starting point. I just had a conversation with someone about it last week. Because I do that these days. I have a little practice where I'm, you know, just whatever, sitting with my little practice guitar and come up with a thing. And I was talking to someone and I was talking shit about my own ideas. And he, well, he kind of reflected back to me the kind of voice I was having, like how abusive I was towards myself with the way
Mm-hmm.
I was judging an idea that wasn't even, I was like, well, but I never finish any song. I never finished a song, blah, blah, blah. And he said, just think about it like it's this little idea or the song or whatever creation is like, think about your little daughter coming and showing you her little drawing.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna tell her, "Finish, go and finish it." So I'm in the process of not jumping to any conclusion in the process itself, because I think that is the biggest thing that actually hinders the creative process,
Mm-hmm.
is having a judgment or having any kind of agenda for it before you even let it take shape.
Right.
Yeah, letting your ideas and creative expressions live a little bit, just
Yeah,
just right next to you without anyone else involved or anything.
absolutely. Absolutely. But I like that analogy about like, would you tell what would you tell your daughter if she thought you were drawing? I think of it like it's like a seed. Do you know what I mean? Seeds they need like fertilizer, they need protection, they need healthy dark, they need, you need to incubate them, you know? And then it's like, can I wait for right timing? Can I incubate that and let it get what it needs to get? And it might not be you doing this, it might just be leaving it there for some time, letting it grow, letting it breathe, letting it establish itself as what it is in its own time, without us deciding what it's going to be too soon. And, right pacing, right timing, which makes me, in a roundabout way, I think about so many of us are not living in right relationship, with life, with the pace of like the flower growing. Like we're so impatient to get to a result. And it's like, how many of us could just be with the pace of natural life, the flower growing, or just how the stream runs, or we just and the cyclicality of life. How patient can we be to wait for cycles, to wait for timings, to be with natural pace? It's the same with our ideas. Do you know what I mean? It's like I could have ideas that I had 10 years ago. I'm like, okay, now I get what that is. I'll make that now. It's like no one's really wanting to wait. Like it's it feels like if I wait, I'm going to die before I do the thing that I need to do. There's this voice that says that, and it's like,
This is speaking to me deeply, yeah. Our inability to slow down, or just like how hard it is to slow down in a culture that's just speeding up more and more. And it actually makes me think about one of your meditation. I downloaded this meditation you have on your website. If
go
anyone,
on.
yeah, the affirmations, I gotta tell you, if anyone's listening, go to Mina's website, which I will link in the show notes and everything. But just get this affirmation meditation. And I think I wrote it down somewhere. Wait. Yeah, one of your affirmation is, I give myself permission to live at the speed of nature rather than the speed of capitalism. And it's just like, thank you. It's
Yeah,
wild how far away we've gone from nature. It's really scary.
it really is. It's really scary, and the fact that capitalism is so all-encompassing and so big. We think that's real time and not manufactured time, right? It's like that's man-made, manufactured time that we're living in. There's a whole other realm of time that if we're able to drop into, so much there for us. There's
Hmm.
so much healing, there's so much resource, there's so much nourishment just being able to drop into that time.
Yeah,
And like so many lessons and life lessons that come from being able to be with time as it is, you know,
like seasons.
seasons, paces, feeling for yeah, seasons. So it's like when is the inspiration time? When's like the sort of inspiration? When's the incubation time? When's the releasing time? When's the show? Like all of those phases we can attune to, so we get to know our own cyclical nature and feel for, if it's a creative process, like what are the phases in my particular creative process that I should be attuning to? And we're going to have a different timing, right? But it's all there for us if we can actually attune to nature and be with right time. But time is so distorted now. It can be difficult. So yes, everyone go and download my meditation.
Yeah. How do you suggest people connect more with like natural time? What do you call it? The chronos, or is that the other one?
Kairos.
Kairos.
Kairos time, yeah. I think if you're in someone who's in like global high, if you're someone who's very, very fast paced and you find it hard to slow down, I would suggest going into some nature and taking a walk. And you might start taking a really fast walk, but over time, if you can catch yourself and just see how slow you can walk, choose your pace. And if you can gradually slow down, that's a way to do it without having to like sit still and meditate. It can be a gradual slowing down. And being in nature, being around it more, you will attune to nature's timing. And with that, I think a lot of people they like plan their route and they're like, I'm gonna go for a walk, and they go for the walk. But if you can just
Yeah.
go for the walk for the sake of going for the walk and be like, I'm just gonna, for no reason, I think that's a great way to start to attune to nature and be with nature as
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
just this world society is just so not supportive of that. Like last week, I'm tired a lot, and I often want to walk slower than I'm walking, but I don't have
Mhm.
time. I gotta get there, right? Last week I had some time. I took extra time before I had to be at the venue, and I was gonna let my body walk as slow as it wants, because often my body just wants to walk so slow. It's like I feel it strongly, like any faster than that is going against what my body's asking, but I often do that because I just gotta walk to the place. It's only a 10 minutes walk. Let's just walk, right? Or I'm walking with someone else and they're walking and I'm not super fast, but just like a normal fast speed. Anyway, I
Mhm.
took extra time to just go to the co-op, get a snack, and then get to work. And I was walking so slow and it was like the most magical thing ever. But it was tricky because I was in a city and cars were stopping for me to cross the road. And I was like signaling to them, no, no, keep going, keep going. I just didn't want to walk fast, when a car stops for you and then you feel like, oh, thank you, let me cross real quick. And if
Right.
you don't cross quick, they're like become all impatient with you. And then you're like, and I was
Yeah.
like, damn, please don't stop for me. I just want to keep going super slow. But a bunch of cars stopped for me, and I was just like walking through the streets of Reno. I was like, slow down. It was so fun. Wow, it was so needed. I felt like my body was so grateful for it.
I love that. I love that for you. It makes me think of you know the practice of calling for a pause. Like, could I call for a pause? I think that's a great way to also sort of like have a bit of an interrupt. And I want to say, like, if you're going for this slow walk, something about reclaiming time, because it seems to be always we're chasing time, and it's like, how can you reclaim time just to tune into magic or tune into feeling good or tune into something nice rather than claiming time to do more? You know
Mm,
what I mean? Can you claim some time for yourself and just do something lovely for yourself? That's very unproductive, quote unquote. You know, I think there's
yeah.
something about doing that which has magical powers.
Yeah, which is why a lot of times maybe you do that too at the beginning of sessions when you work with someone. we often use the phrase, you don't have to do anything. There's nothing to
Hmm.
do
Hmm.
because we're
Yeah.
just so, like, I watch my mind, when you close your eyes and you're trying to fall asleep and your mind just kind of keeps looking for things to resolve or things, the future and the past and everything. And we're just like, there's just nothing, there's nothing that you need to look for. There's nothing for you to do. But the stillness has just become so rare.
So rare and unsafe for some people, right? It's like I don't know what to do if I'm still like it's too stark, it's too confronting.
Mm-hmm.
So our brains are so practiced into that scanning for things that we need to do. And it's like, how can we practice a different orientation?
Yeah, so you mentioned global high, and we mentioned a few different terms that we know from alchemical alignment, double binds and global high. Should we briefly talk about global high?
Yeah, yeah, we can. If global high was like a visual representation, it would be the speed of like scrolling, like Instagram or Facebook. It's like that constant speed, which is just like coming at you. And in your life, you might have people, or maybe you are one that is constantly on the go, constantly going from one thing to the next. Everything's at this kind of like high intensity. And if this is you, you might not know this is a thing because it's just natural. It's naturally what's happening for you, but this is one pacing of living that the culture kind of lives at. City, maybe you could say the cities live in this time, this capitalism, always on, 24/7, high intensity, got it. The more, the bigger is better. The always making money, constant, that pace. And people can live in that pace as well. And there are other paces of time and ways of being that that exist. I'm gonna say
Mm-hmm.
outside of that we're speaking to.
Yeah, so Bridget, who we keep mentioning, I had her on episode 2 if anyone wants to learn more about alchemical alignment. She has this book, The Map of Seven Realms, and it's kind of different seven realms that you can be in because a lot of people talk about flight or fight vs rest and digest as like nervous systems. But basically, she mapped out more places on the map, and one of them is this global high that we're talking about, which I feel like is so relevant for so many of us. I mean, I personally would attest.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think in terms of the art making, when I was working as a choreographer, that world lived in that. It was like there was no, I wasn't, when I was on a job, there was no rest for me. It was just we've booked you on this job, so you must go, 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 go. Like you've got to fill in every gap. Like rest is not part of the cycle. You know what I mean? It's just high
Yep.
intensity at this level all the time, which
Yeah.
is inhuman. That's not human, how humans live. That's the machine. That's machines can do that, but humans don't do that. And so after a while, it became really like abusive. And I burnt out because I was trying to live up here and my body couldn't sustain it. And I think that a lot of artists are going to probably resonate with that. Like they want you to work as a machine, but you're not a machine, you're a human. And I think I had a lot of shame about not being able to fulfill at that level, like over long periods of time. Whereas I saw so and so over there, apparently they could from the outside, but I don't know what's going on in their life. But I just felt a lot of shame because I couldn't. And so I wasn't as valuable or productive or insert whatever word you want there.
Yeah, I relate to this so much. I'm myself feel like I'm still in the loop. I'm still in the so-called rat race. I'm well aware of it that I've burnt out so many times. I could say I'm pretty much chronically burnt out, and I'm so looking forward to the next phase of my life when I'm not on the road and living at a different pace. Also, I had different times where I totally pulled out and I was like, I'm not supposed to be a musician. I'm just like gonna not do that and focus totally on other things and my yoga teacher training and this and that. I'm gonna like go over there and I'm not gonna play with anyone. And then I kind of got sucked back in It's almost like it's my karma, like I'm supposed to be doing this, and I try to pull out and I get back in. And you're talking about the shame and the difficulty of leaving the lifestyle and like kind of taking the leap. It's like I'm doing that in in stages, you know?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's sort of being pulled back in. So we talked about double binds before, and it was,
Yeah.
and there might be this thing about like, this is really what I'm here to do, but I can't do it because when I try to do it, this is what happens. I burn out. So
Yeah.
you're in like stuck place. And now that I'm on the other side of like leaving that big job, I see now, like when I pass it out, it's like, oh no, you can still, for where I am now, when I look back, it's like, oh no, I can still do the thing I want. It's just that I can't do it in that way. And
Yeah.
there's just so much more space, like, and nuance and subtlety. And like, it's not the either or. It's like, oh, I just have to find a different way that suits me to do this, which might feel impossible when you're in that kind of double bind either or place. But over time, as I built my capacity, I could see the map and it looked really different. It was like, what's the right size of me, of me as an artist, and how do I want to do it? That became much more available as I built my capacity and went on my own healing journey.
That's so beautiful. I wholeheartedly believe it's possible, and I'm in the process of creating a reality where, I'm still creative and I still play music, but not as a touring musician necessarily.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, totally.
Anything that actually I normally start with this and I forgot to ask you, just like if there's anything that's alive for you these days that you want to express in regards to everything we talked or anything else.
There is one thing actually that I like to mention or say, and I think if I when I think about like my 20s self or my younger self, and I see that art and being an artist was like everything. It like took over my whole life, right? It was the only thing. And if I didn't do this thing, I was an absolute failure. Now looking back, I'm like, oh, art, like being an artist was like massive. It was my whole life. There was no room for other life. I think no other life actually existed. And like as I've unpacked my own story and my own trauma and my own sort of stuff, I see the layers. I come from an immigrant family who came over and like success, quote unquote, which means you have to also, success meant monetary success, like financial success, not just whatever success. Um, and they've come over here and you have access to all of these opportunities. Now you have to make a success of yourself, right? And there was just so much pressure from the beginning, like on top of me. And also, I want to say that there was at at dance school, there was someone who was in the year above me, and their mother was an artist. And I always thought about that. I thought to myself, my parents didn't know what I did until I was like out of dance school because they didn't know it. They didn't know what I was doing. They didn't understand. They didn't support it. It was just, it wasn't part of their existence, right? Like contemporary dance wasn't a thing that exists in Ghana in the same way as a career here, right? And I think to myself, wow, if I had that safety, that nourishment of a mother that just was like, you can be an artist and I support you wholeheartedly from the beginning of your very like conception and upbringing. Do you know what I like? Can you
I
feel?
do. I do know that, yeah, I'm putting my hand on my heart because I often felt like I often wondered where I would be if I had that sort of support and encouragement. It's incredible.
It's incredible. The value of that is in, you can't put a value on that, right? And so, you know, I used to have so much shame about everything I wasn't doing, but we realized that everyone's in a different place. and I was putting so much pressure on myself, not understanding that we're not all starting from the same place. Other people have had different kinds of supports or privileges or whatever. And it's not about that, but it's about how I'm relating to my creativity and myself and the kind of shame that I'm going through because there wasn't a transparency. I didn't know that other people had access to a mother or a parent that would just like be like, you can do this and this is amazing. And like it would change the whole fabric of your reality if you had that kind of a parent. And so I think what I'm speaking about is for people with freeze and creativity in particular, for your people listening, that self-compassion part is so important. And I think what the thing you asked me, what's alive for me? It wasn't until I learned how to be okay in my everyday life, like my reality day-to-day living, that art, or I say quote unquote art because I don't like this capital ART word, but anyway, that creativity became much more sustainable and right size for me. So for me, it wasn't about I need to make, it was about how can I be okay every day and live. Like that was where my medicine was. And then from that place, I could start to maybe like look at creativity, but I had it all the wrong way round.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I absolutely know what you mean because I think I had a little bit of a purist in me or like idealist part of me that was like art is more important than money, and I actually never even chased the money gigs. I wasn't like, "Oh, let's make sure that I'm settled and have a steady place to live and then I have like steady income and that I have support or that I have therapy or that I have, the basic things that we need." I was just chasing the art or the music, the meaningful stuff, because I was like, that is what is really important to me. And I think it's really beautiful and maybe a little bit naive
Mm-hmm.
to go after that without taking care of the basics. So I resonate with what you're saying, that actually taking care of your life, taking care of yourself, therapeutic in itself and will kind of lay the baseline for creating, for being creative, for making stuff, for feeling good about your creative life and life in general.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, if we think about it, how many like absolute assholes have we encountered in like the creative industries?
Hmm.
People are not okay, but they're successful, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I sort of think to myself, wow, there's a whole like the basics of life have not been addressed. But yeah,
Mm-mm.
here you are, fucking my life up or whatever, however you are.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have a few of those in mind right now.
It's the thing. So people like it becomes, and I like on my end, I know that there's abuse, like the abuses. So as this gets bigger and spirals and people get older and more powerful, what we're talking about can become outright abuse. You know what I mean? And so this thing about taking care of your life, yes, financially, but also just mentally, like being a stable person, being a connected person, like, and being in right relationship with power, like from the beginning and right relationship with what you're doing is super, super, super important. Otherwise, we see how it can get completely out of control.
Yeah. I feel like we can keep talking about this. Do you have any final advice for the creatives, artists out there who are maybe very much resonating with this struggle things we're talking about?
Advice. I just wish I could just like scoop you up and be like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. I feel like the life journey that I've been on through this, it's been, I can't even put, what am I saying? It's been so valuable to go on this life journey and like fucking painful as well at the same time. But I would say nature, like look to nature and try and find practitioners or support or a good friend that can listen to you and just start speaking and start journaling and start saying the things that are happening to someone, whether it's a therapist or a practitioner or a good friend that can listen without judgment, because that can really begin to change things, you know. And we have this thing about the goal is to be successful, and we can just be tunnel vision. And I understand that to be successful, quote unquote, you need tunnel vision. And I see where that has led a lot of people. And it might not necessarily be the place you think it is. So I think just being open, and if you're not enjoying this journey, or it's burning you out, then there's clues there. There's clues there that it might need to be in a different way. There might be a different way for you to go about this, because there are ways that can be win-win. You don't have to burn yourself out to be where you want to be.
And yes, for win-win, it's
Mm-hmm.
possible. Mina, where can people find you? Do you want to tell them about any things?
Yeah, please go and download my meditation. I can give Noga the link. Shall I give you the link? Yeah.
I could, yeah, I could put it down in the show notes, and I'll put your website. Or you're on Instagram, or what's the best way for people to know what you're up to?
The best way is my email list. I try on being Instagram, but I'm just not very good. So email gets all of my classes and all of the things that I'm doing. So if you download the meditation, 20 affirmations for soft success, that will add you to my email. And then that's where I share everything that I'm doing.
Beautiful. So I'll definitely put the link for that.
Thank you.
Yay. Thanks for coming and chatting with me about all of this. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And can we do spicy part 2, please?
Oh my God, yes. Thanks so much for tuning in. If this episode resonated, send it to a friend, share it in your stories, or take a moment to rate the podcast and subscribe. It genuinely helps this little baby podcast grow organically and reach to the people that it needs to reach. I really appreciate every comment and every review. And as always, if you want to go deeper, my course, retreat, and free resources are all linked below. This is your healing era. Take care, and I'll see you next time.